In this video, we're going to give a general overview of entity relationship diagrams and then dive more specifically into what is an entity. So the different parts of an entity relationship diagram are an entity, which contains the name of the entity as well as all the attributes and is represented by rectangle corners, as you can see indicated here for vendor. The next type of entity is an associative entity, which is represented by the curved corners, as you can see here. Now, we'll discuss the differences between these two types of entities later on in subsequent videos. The next thing we'll talk about is the entity type, which is basically the name of the entity itself, just employee in this case, and is usually represented in all caps as a singular noun, as you can see here. Then we have attributes, which describe or are characteristics of an entity, and we'll talk about attributes in subsequent videos. There's relationships, which basically determine how many of one entity are related to how many of another entity, and we'll talk about relationships again in a subsequent video. There's cardinalities, which are part of the relationships, which basically distinguish how many of one instance of an entity is associated with another instance or multiple instances of another entity, and we'll talk about this again in a subsequent video. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on entities, which are a person, a place, an object, an event, or a concept in the user environment about which the organization wishes to maintain data. So for example, an entity type would be employee and course. That's the name of the entity itself. And then for instances, we have each record. So we have each employee is a record. We have Eric Johnson. That's his birth date and his street address. We have the course of PHP and the description of the course, language designed for web development. So I want you to walk through this learning activity and identify all entities in the following statement. A basketball player plays in many games. A season has many games, and each basketball player has one coach. Pause this video, and when you have identified the entities, come back and compare your answer. Alright, welcome back. As we look at this statement, we can identify several nouns. We have player, we have games, we have season, and we have coach. So these would be four entities in this paragraph. So we're going to write them out. So we have player, we have game, we have season, and we have coach.